guy's going to be some senator one day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Jesse Hughes Show. I'm excited to have you here today. We have got a lot to discuss tonight. I apologize for the slightly late start. We were experiencing a few technical glitches, technical difficulties. This stream was supposed to be up on Rumble as well as X and YouTube tonight. However, that did not take place. We will hopefully have that issue figured out next week, but let's dive right into what we have to discuss tonight. Let me adjust my camera here. Like I said, tonight we're getting off to a little bit of a rough start, but now everything should be good. We're going to dive right in. On Monday, President Donald J. Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris faced off in a debate hosted live by ABC News. I know many of you probably tuned in, many of you probably watched. I was at a debate watch party here at Liberty University with over 270 other students, strong conservative students who were fired up, ready to get in, and were rowdy and energetic the entire time. Huge shout out to Turning Point USA at Liberty University and the College Republicans of Liberty University for helping put this together. Now, I don't know about you, but as the debate was going on, I got a little worried. I was just a tad bit worried about the performance that President Trump was giving. He seemed to be a little bit off kilter to me. He did not feel like he was adequately prepared for Kamala Harris to be more prepared than most of us thought that she was going to be. I thought it was going to be a complete blowout. So much so that I forgot the debate was even happening until day of. If I had remembered, I would have given a preview last week on Friday's show. However, I completely forgot about it. So much so that the day of, I was like, oh, wait, there's a debate today. I should probably go watch that. But Kamala Harris gave a performance that was above expectation. It was above what I thought was going to be her level of performance. I thought she was going to absolutely blow it. I thought she was going to bomb. That's not what happened. Instead, we saw her seem, at the very least, like she had prepared answers. It seemed almost as if that she had been tipped off. And there are some whistleblowers that came forward who are alleging that questions from the debate had been given to the Harris campaign in advance. Now, the validity of those allegations, I have not been able to independently verify. I've not looked into that. I can't say whether or not those allegations are correct, whether or not that whistleblower is credible. But if they are, you could tell. You could tell watching the debate that Kamala Harris seemed like she expected what was coming, whereas President Trump seemed to be completely blindsided. It didn't help that the debate moderators seemed to be debating President Trump. They weren't allowing just Kamala Harris to debate President Trump. They weren't allowing President Trump to just debate Kamala Harris, but they were jumping into the action as well. Many people were saying it seemed like it was a 3-on-1 debate that President Trump was having to go through, and that was certainly the impression that I got. They fact-checked President Trump multiple times and never touched Harris once. They never called her on bringing up Charlottesville, which has been debunked multiple times. They never called her on her various lies about her flip-flops on positions. Now, they asked her a question about it, but when she gave a completely nonsense answer, they didn't call her on it. They didn't say anything. They rammed Donald Trump through the ringer. They asked him about everything. Things that don't even matter anymore. January 6th, they went back to Charlottesville. They asked him all these questions that, in reality, if we're being honest, have no ramifications on the state of the race right now or on the American people. The American people don't care about January 6th anymore. They're not thinking about January 6th when they go to the ballot box. Maybe some crazy delusional libs are, but your average middle of the road working American is not thinking about January 6th when they go to the ballot box. They're thinking about how can I feed my family and how can I keep them safe. Two themes which President Trump did get opportunities to touch on, but ultimately, because of his back and forth with the moderators, wasn't able to fully explore. He had his moments of questionable debating tactics. He should have pivoted, I felt like, on some of the January 6 questions. He did a decent job defending his stance on abortion, even if I disagree with it, against Kamala Harris's barrage. He gave a very interesting viewpoint on what's happening in Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. We all remember that, right? Now, obviously, that is something that, if you look at the evidence, is happening despite ABC's claim to the contrary. However, I don't know if I would have brought that up personally. I don't know if that's something I would have touched on. Maybe I would have went more into how illegal aliens are murdering American citizens, like Lincoln Riley in Georgia, the 19-year-old nursing student who got murdered by an illegal alien who had a prior criminal history, who shouldn't have been here, but because of Democratic policies, kept getting released. I would have talked about that. I didn't prep President Trump. Maybe next time he does a debate, he'll give me a call. I doubt it. But Trump had his strong moments. He had some weaker moments. And there were a few times where there was very obvious bait cast by the Harris campaign, such as the issue of his rally sizes. And President Trump, unfortunately, took the bait. It felt to me as if he was trying to do a round two of his 2016 performance against Hillary Clinton. Now, obviously, he did great in 2016. However, this felt like he was trying to get back into 2016 energy, and at some moments, it kind of fell flat. During the debate, I was worried. I was very worried, in fact. However, my worries were quickly cast aside when I realized that a lot of independents were siding with President Trump after the debate. That is not something that I think many of us saw coming. Independents, according to some flash polls that were conducted after, said that they aligned more with President Trump, especially on the economy, than they did on Harris, than they did with Harris. Some independents felt like that Trump did a better job overall. Some independents felt like he had a better sound policy, that they could trust him more. Now, some polls have some independents going more towards Harris than they do Trump, but there are a lot of polls, even by CNN of all people, who saw that coming, that say that independents are actually leaning more with Trump on the issues. They're leaning more with Trump in the post-debate performance. And you can tell that rattled the Harris campaign because now they're calling for a second debate, something that they did not agree to prior. Prior to this, many Americans like myself were under the assumption that this was going to be the only debate we got to see. That's turning out to not be the case. Harris is calling for a second debate. Now, it could be, and it most likely might be, that this will be the only debate. President Trump has said he's claimed victory in the debate and has said that he feels as if a second debate is not necessary. Whether or not we'll actually get one has yet to be seen. What I am looking forward to is seeing J.D. Vance square up against Tim Walz in the upcoming vice presidential debate, which should be happening within a few weeks here. Let me get the exact date. I should have had this pulled up beforehand. Look at me not being prepared. I promise I'm more prepared for this. The vice presidential debate between JD Vance and Tim Walz is coming up very soon on October 1st. Make sure you tune into that because that should be a very interesting showing. It should be, in my opinion, a blowout. I think JD Vance will wipe the floor with Tim Walz. Tim Walz is not he was not a good vice presidential pick. I was shocked when the Harris campaign went with him. I thought for sure that they would be going for Josh Shapiro, as did many others. But that's not what we got, and instead we'll see JD Vance go up against Tim Walz on October 1st. Now, this post debate performance polls show that a lot of independents are going with President Trump. Now, we should not get complacent. We should not just allow this to make us cruise into election day feeling like victory is inevitable. Victory is never inevitable. We have to make sure that we are registered to vote. We have to make sure that we show out and vote, whether you vote early, vote in person on election day, whatever you choose to do, just make sure that you vote. And not only that, but you've got to go out there and you've got to make sure that you register all your friends, register all your family, and make sure that they are voting for President Trump on election day. Because we have seen alleged, I'm watching you, YouTube, I know YouTube is watching, alleged allegations of voter fraud in the last election. These allegations, just to stay compliant with YouTube rules and regulations, the 2020 election was the freest and fairest and most secure election in history. There are no questions. No questions. But just to make sure there are no questions in this one, to quote President Trump, we've got to turn out and make sure that the turnout on our side is too big to rig. We cannot allow the same questions, unadulterated unprecedented questions to stay compliant with YouTube guidelines that never should have been asked. We cannot allow these same questions to pop up this go round. We have to make sure that we turn out as many people as possible to win. You can see on my little ticker that I've got on the bottom of the screen now, new little addition. Support the show on Venmo. Make sure you do that, please. I'm a broke college student. Register to vote. Make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure all your friends and family are registered to vote. Make sure everyone you know is registered to vote and is planning on doing it. And if you want to make a bigger impact, get involved with the campaign. Go out and talk to voters. I am a member of something called Trump Force 47. It is a program, it is a campaign edition instituted by the RNC to get people who sign up, like me, into what's called the Captain's Program. And as a Trump Force captain, you're given a very simple list of 10 people. 10 people in your community, your neighbors, your friends, people in the community who are low propensity registered Republicans. They don't vote that often, and your job is just to go out and find 10 of them and make sure they're registered to vote. And if you find 10 of them, then they'll up your numbers, and they'll ask you to go find 25 of them, and so on and so forth. But 10 people, that's an incredibly easy number to achieve. You've just got to find 10 people out of a list that they give you and go talk to them. Go make sure they're registered to vote. Go make sure they're planning on voting. It's a simple goal that will have more of an impact on this election than you can imagine. If you're interested in being part of this effort, go to TrumpForce47.com today and register and sign up. Now, if you're not interested in doing that, then there are other ways to get involved. You can just do general door knocking, maybe one day or 2 days or a couple of days in the upcoming cycle, in the next few weeks before the election. Just go talk to your neighbors. Sign up to register people to vote. Go out to public events, public places. Register people. Make sure they're registered to vote. Sign up to be a poll watcher. Poll watchers are incredibly needed. They're incredibly important. They serve a beneficial role. All you have to do is show up on election day, go to a poll location near you after you've signed up and done the training, and just make sure that things seem like they're going smoothly, that they're fair. You just gotta make sure they're fair. We want this to be like the last election, the freest, fairest, most secure election in American history, where Joe Biden definitely won 81 million votes. We want to make sure it's like that. But we want Trump to get the 81 million votes this time. We want Trump to come out on top. Just get involved. Find a way to get involved, get connected, and do your best to help out on the campaign. It's incredibly necessary. It is sorely needed. We need people like you getting out there, getting involved, and making sure that Donald Trump wins this election. Take a sip of water real quick. This is an incredibly important election. Some are saying it's the most important election of our lifetime. I don't know if that's true, but we'll see. I know this. If Kamala Harris wins, things aren't going to look good. Especially on the issue of immigration, which is our next topic. Immigration is a very hot topic in society right now. There's a lot of people with a lot to say. And a lot of Christians are asking the question, what does the Bible have to say about this issue? You hear one side saying that we need to be caring and compassionate to people coming here, that they're leaving hard lives and giving up everything they know to come here and have a better life. And you have the other side saying that a lot of these people are criminals, that they need to be arrested, locked up, deported. I tend to side with the side that says that deportations are necessary. However, if you're a Christian, especially a conservative Christian like me, you've likely faced questions about a verse in the Bible. Leviticus 19, verses 33 through 34, that says, "When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall do him no wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and when you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God." A lot of people point to this verse and ask the question, wait, how can we have strict immigration policies? How can we deport millions of people who are here illegally? How can we do that and still fulfill this verse? Well, when it comes to a verse in the Bible, the best thing to do is test Scripture against other Scriptures. Now, one place to start is, this is an Old Testament verse in Leviticus. One place to start is by looking at other Old Testament verses, especially in the law, because this comes from the Pentateuch, this comes from the law that God handed down to Moses. Now, the law is a controversial subject among Christians in and of itself, and many people ask the question, how do we interpret what laws were given specifically to Israel, and what laws still apply to us today? Some things are obvious. Don't murder. That still applies. Don't steal. That still applies. Don't covet. That still applies. But the question becomes, how do we interpret which laws are carried over? Well, one place to look, the starting point to look at is it repeated in the New Testament? There are commands to be loving in the New Testament. There are commands to be compassionate. Obviously, we're supposed to love others and treat them as we want to be treated. But that raises the question of, well, these people that are coming in, they're not treating us the way we want to be treated. What are we supposed to do? Luckily, we have one guide, Romans 13, 1 through 7, "Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. And those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resist what God has appointed. For those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad? Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection, not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. For because of this, you must also pay taxes, for the authorities are ministers of God attending to this very thing. I'm not going to bring up taxes. I've got a lot of opinions. But it's very clear in this verse that the government was instituted by God for our good. Now, it doesn't always act in that way, we know, and we are given the responsibility, especially in this nation where we get to elect our representatives, of making sure that the government is following God's will and purpose. But governments create laws. Governments pass laws. There are laws about immigration. And based on this verse, it's very clear, if you're breaking those laws, you are doing wrong. You're doing evil, and you need to be punished for it. It is 100% completely just for the government to lay down punishments against those who are doing wrong. There is nothing in the Bible that says otherwise. Now, there are some times when governments pass laws that go against God's word, and that is a place where we as Christians do have the leeway to disobey a government command that violates what God has commanded us. William Blackstone treated this issue as a question of the law of nature and nature's God. If a law passed by a government goes against the law of nature and nature's God, which Blackstone correctly identified as the law given to us by the God of the Holy Bible, that law is invalid. If the government was to come along tomorrow and pass a law that says murder is totally okay, you can kill anybody, that law is invalid. That goes against the law of nature and nature's God. Additionally, we can test Scripture with other Scripture by looking at a key phrase in this Leviticus passage. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. There are other laws in the Old Testament that use similar language. Laws about what food the Jews were supposed to eat. God explains those laws by saying, I am the Lord your God who delivered you from Egypt. You are to be a set apart and holy people. If you look at that context, it's very clear from that phrase, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. He's talking to Israel. He's not talking to us. Now, we can learn from this. We can draw conclusions from this. We can see that we're supposed to, treat people from different cultures, different countries, different lands with love and respect. But this law was specifically given to Israel, and it doesn't negate the fact that the United States government has the authority to pass immigration laws, and we're supposed to follow those laws. If you're here illegally, I don't know why you're watching this stream, but if you're here illegally, you've broken the law, you need to face the consequences, you need to face the punishment. The Bible's very clear about the role of government, and we need to be clear about our stances and our postures. And I think, based off this, based off the precedent, based off how you interpret Scripture, it's very clear that if the government says that someone who's here illegally needs to be deported, that is just. How they carry out that deportation needs to be in a dignified way that respects human beings created in the image of God, but it is just to carry out that deportation. Specifically, the Bible also lays out guidelines about how immigrants to our culture should act. For example, if we look in Ruth, chapter 1, Naomi is a foreigner. She's not part of Israel, but she gives a vow of loyalty to Ruth that says, where you go, I will go, where you lodge, I will lodge, Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. The Bible seems to indicate from this verse that there is a expectation of assimilation, and that expectation of assimilation can be carried to new immigrants, new people that are coming here. I was born in Russia, as many of you may know. I am not an American by birth. I was born in Russia. I was adopted. I learned to be an American. I learned to love this country. I learned to follow its laws, its rules, and its culture. People that are coming from other countries need to do the same. America is a unique nation with a unique heritage and a unique culture. And if you come here and you're not willing to ascribe to that and assimilate to that, quite frankly, you're doing things wrong. Assimilation is a vital, key aspect of immigration. And right now we have a problem with a lot of immigrants who are not assimilating to our culture and who are not doing things the way that they need to be done. If you're not doing that, you need to get out. And with that, there are a lot of cultures that I would argue that by their very nature are the antithesis of the culture we have here in America. I would use the example of Islam. Not all Muslims are bad people. There are Muslims here in America who love America. But as a system and as a religion, Islamic values do not coincide well with American values. It's very, very obvious, very apparent. Look at the way things are run in a lot of Middle Eastern countries. It's very totalitarian. There's not the same level of respect for human dignity and human rights. There's not this idea of a natural law that governs all things. There's not this idea of human beings endowed with natural liberties. They don't have those values. In fact, they're very, very, very intolerant of Christianity. So much so that in many Muslim countries, if you're a Christian, you can be jailed or even killed. If you're a Muslim who converts to Christianity, your family will outcast you, and you run the risk of going against the government, and the government has the authority in those countries to crack down on that. Now, that's not an authority that is vested from God. That is outside of God's will and God's command for governments and how they're supposed to operate, but that is sadly the case in many Middle Eastern countries. Islam is an antithesis to the American heritage and American values. Now, if you're a Muslim and you come over here and you assimilate to American culture and American values, welcome to the country. But if you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be coming here. That is just my honest opinion. That is what I believe to be true. If you are new here, I hope that you like this video, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter. Like the video, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, share this with your friends, repost it, and if you're willing, go on Venmo, find me, and consider giving a small donation, because running this stuff sometimes takes a lot of money. And in the past, it wasn't an issue. I had a job while I was in college. Things were great. But now I am a 1L at law school. And at the law school that I go to, Liberty University School of Law, which I would recommend to everybody, they do have a rule that during your 1L year, you're not allowed to have a job. You have to focus on your studies. You can't have a job. And naturally, because of that, my parents are very supportive of me. I'm very thankful for that, and they do provide a lot. But money can still be tight sometimes. So if you're willing, I genuinely hate asking for money. I don't like doing this. I don't. But if you like my content, if you like what I'm doing here, and you feel like giving a little bit to give back to the show, go on Venmo or figure out another way to pay me, reach out to me, and just consider giving a small donation, a few bucks. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking you to give me like $500. If you're willing, I'll take it. But I'm not asking for that. Just a few dollars here or there. Anything helps. Anything will help support the show. But if you really want to support the show and help me grow, like the video, subscribe, share this with your friends. Get the word out to everybody. Jesse Hughes Show on Friday nights. It's a blast. If you can't watch live, it'll be posted on YouTube. It'll be posted on Twitter. It'll be posted on Spotify and other streaming platforms like it. Go listen, go watch after. But check it out. It's great. Go tell your friends. And if you're feeling generous, support the show. I'm going to move on a little bit. College football is a topic I love discussing. I love it. I love college football. And in fact, so much so that the main 3 points of this podcast are politics, theology, and sports. The Jesse Hughes Show, politics, sports, theology. I love sports. I love college football. It gets me going. It gets me ready to go. And tomorrow is going to be a full slate. I cannot wait to watch. But if you've followed college football like I have, then you're likely aware of what I'm about to talk about. But if you're a casual fan, if you keep track during the season, but you don't really follow that much, then you might be familiar, maybe, that you've heard in passing with a term, Power 5. You might have heard last season, if you watched, the term Power 5 go around. But then all of a sudden, you tune in again this season, and it's not Power 5 anymore. You hear the term Power 4. And you're probably thinking to yourself, Power 4? I thought it was Power 5. What happened? Where'd the last whatever it is go? Well, if you don't know what Power 5 means, Power 5 are the 5 top conferences at the very top of college football. But now there's not 5 anymore, there's 4. Because multiple teams from the Pac-12 conference went and joined other conferences. Some joined the Big Ten, some joined the ACC, and if you want to try and explain to me how a Pacific Coast Conference school went and joined the Atlantic Coast Conference, if you have a great explanation for how that happened, please enlighten me, because I still cannot figure out why in the world we have schools in California in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I don't understand. Someone, please help me understand. I've been trying to figure this out for a year. I haven't figured it out. Nothing makes sense anymore. I don't get it. All I know is that the Pac-12 got reduced to the Pac-2. It was essentially dead. NCAA rules speculate in order to have a conference, you got to have 8 teams. The Pac-12 had 2. Oregon State and Washington State. The Pac-12 was dead, buried, gone. Or so we thought. Until this week, when it was announced that the Pac-12 would be adding, from the Mountain West, a G5 conference, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. 4 new teams. The Pac-12 is back. Is it back? It looks like it might be. But if you do math, you can tell. That's 4 new teams added to 2. That's 6. You need 8. They need 2 more teams. Who's going to step up and fill in that gap? I don't know. There's some contenders. But the Pac-12 is back. It's coming back. It is coming back to life. Pac-12 After Dark has not died. That means, unfortunately, I will probably be staying up till way late in the night watching football now. But we're back. We are so back. The 4 new teams, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State, all additions from the Mountain West. And there's some other teams that are in the conversation right now as potential additions to the Pac-12. You got talks about Memphis, Tulane, which Tulane is in Louisiana. So once again, the question comes up, what's a team in Louisiana doing in the Pacific Coast Conference? I don't know. UTSA, Texas. Bringing back Cal and Stanford, that would be a power move because the ACC is currently kind of in a epidemic right now. You can tell I'm getting passionate about this because I keep having to reach up and put my in-ears back in my ears because they keep falling out because anyway, UNLV, University of Las Vegas, Nevada, Air Force, Wyoming or New Mexico, potential additions for the Pac-12. Now, I don't know who's going to come in. I don't know if the Pac-12 is going to be the Pac-8, the Pac-16, the Pac whatever, but it's coming back. They're in the process of re-expanding it. It might be coming back, and that, my friends, is a glorious thing because we all love it. We all love the Pac-12. I am an SEC homer for life, but I love the Pac-12. We need it back. We need it back. It needs to be back. We are so back. Hopefully it comes back. I don't know if it will, but hopefully it does. But it brings up a question. In the new landscape of college football, if the Pac-12 comes back, is it going to be a Power 5 conference again? Or are we stuck with Power 4 and a new group of 6? And that's an important question to be asking because, as you may know, the playoff just expanded from 4 teams to 12. This year is going to be the first year of a 12-team expanded playoff. And the format of that playoff is going to be the top 5 conference champions, meaning SEC, ACC, Big 12, and the Big 10. I blanked on their name for a second, my bad. Big 10 all get automatic bids. Their champion team gets an automatic bid to the playoff. So if Ohio State wins the Big 10, Arizona wins the Big 12, Georgia wins the SEC, and I don't even know who's in contention right now for the ACC. Maybe Clemson if they don't screw it up again. If those 4 teams win their conferences, they're automatically in a bid. But I just said that 5 conference champions get an automatic bid. Where's that 5th spot go to? Well, whether or not the Pac-12 becomes another Power 5, or if it becomes a group of 6, they still get that last automatic bid spot, or could. If it becomes another Power 5 conference, if it regains its status as Power 5, then it gets that automatic bid, which means that the group of 5 doesn't have an automatic shot at the playoff anymore. Right now, under this current system, because it's a Power 4 and group of 5, that last group of 5 school, whether it be hopefully the Liberty Flames or Boise State or Tulane or another team, they get, if they're the highest ranked group of 5 champion, they get that automatic bid. But if the Pac-12 becomes a group of Power 5 conference again, all of a sudden group of 5 has nowhere to go. Unless the playoff committee changes the rules, which could happen, but we're stuck in that situation. Conversely, if they become a group of 6 with a new Pac-12, all of a sudden, we're looking at 6 conferences trying to go after that spot, not 5. Either way, Liberty probably ends up getting screwed, unfortunately. Partially because of our own doing, but partially not. But it creates a new race. Now, whether or not the Pac-12 becomes a group of 5, thus turning into a group of 6, or a Power 5, it's going to shake up the way that we look at the playoff. And right now, we haven't even played a single game of the 12-team expanded format, and people are already talking about expanding it again to 16 teams. Where are we going to stop? Okay, listen. I was content with 4. I was. 12, maybe a little too much. I'd rather 8. 16? 16? Are you crazy? 16 teams? Do you know how hard of a sport football is? Especially at the college level. This isn't the NFL. These aren't professional athletes. These are college students who are now getting paid, unfortunately. I'm not even going to get into that. Who are getting paid to play football at a college. There's a clear talent gap. In the NFL, there is a talent gap as well. It's not as clear, though. I mean, you've got a team like, unfortunately, my Carolina Panthers that have not done great the last few years, but I'm loyal. I'm still a loyal fan. But in college football, the talent gap between Alabama and New Mexico State is huge. And you're going to expect 16 teams to go out there and compete? We haven't even seen 12 take the field yet. We don't even know what the 12-team playoff looks like yet. Listen, there might be some years where a Cinderella pick all of a sudden skyrockets up the ranks and ends up winning a national championship. But when's the last time that happened? The last national champion was Michigan. Before that, it was Georgia. Before that, it was Georgia. Before that, Alabama. LSU got one in there. Clemson got a few. Alabama got several. We keep seeing the same teams dominate at the top level. And it's not because of the structure of the playoff. It's because they are getting better talent because they have better brands and they're just that much better. That doesn't mean other teams shouldn't be encouraged to go out there and compete. That doesn't mean other teams shouldn't be striving to be the best that they can be. But you're never going to get the same level of talent at Kennesaw State that you're going to get at Michigan, regardless of whether or not you institute a 16-team playoff. It's not going to happen. And where's it going to stop? Are we going to go to 24? Are we going to keep growing and expanding? Is it going to end up like some crazy March Madness situation where all of a sudden all 132 teams have a shot at the playoff? It's impossible. It can't go that far. Because of the structure and the nature of the sport, because of the way college football is played, college football is not basketball. It's a completely different game, completely different rules, completely different players, completely different structure. It can't be equivalent. You can't have a similar structure. It's impossible. 12 teams, sure, fine. 12 is great. Let's see how it works. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe it will be the best thing that ever happened to the sport. But I highly doubt expanding to more than 12 is going to make the sport any better. I highly doubt it. 12 teams is enough. We can't go further. We cannot grow it more than 12 teams. 12 is enough. 12 is too many in my opinion. 8 seems like a great, perfect number that everybody can agree on. No, they skipped 8. They went right to 12. Okay, fine. Do your thing. But you can't expect to have better competition if you just keep growing the thing. Look at government. The more you grow government, does it get better? No, it gets worse. The same thing, in my opinion, is bound to happen here. If you grow the college football playoff, it's not going to get better. It's not. No matter how much you think that it's going to improve things, it's not. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. I cannot see how, in any world, growing it past what we have now is going to make things any better. I just don't see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. Moving on. Staying within the theme of talking about football, we're gonna make the jump from college to the NFL. like many great college players do. Many great college players make the jump when they're finished playing at their schools. They get drafted, they go to the NFL. One of those great players was a national championship winner at the University of Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, who went to the Miami Dolphins. Now, Tua, at his time at the Dolphins, has faced some very, very serious health issues, including many, many concussions. And last night, Thursday night football versus the Bills, he faced yet another concussion after a collision with Damar Hamlin. And many are asking whether or not it's time for Tua to move on from football. Many great players in the sport of in the sport of football in the NFL have decided to move on after rampant and repeated injuries. Luke Kuechly, for example, at the Panthers. Many others. They've decided to call it quits. They've said, you know what? I love football. This sport is great, but my health, my family, it's more important to me. I've got to move on. And when you've had as many concussions as Tua has, you got to ask this a similar question. Is it time for me to move on? Is it time for me to say I'm gonna focus on keeping myself safe, healthy, providing for my family? He just recently had a child. That child needs a dad. And if you're getting concussion after concussion after concussion playing football, you're running the risk and you're making the risk higher that child is going to grow up without a father. Tua, I love you. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but I am an Alabama fan. I love you. I think you're great. You're a tremendous player. But you got to think about your future. You got to think about making sure you're still here for your kid, for your family, that you're still mentally present while you have a chance. Concussions wear down the brain. CTE is a legitimate thing. Go ask Antonio Brown. He can tell you a lot about it. You've got to make sure that mentally and physically you are still here for your family. And if that means making the tough decision to give up football, you got to do what's right for your family and for yourself. You've got a ton of money. You've earned a lot of money in the NFL. A retirement contract will probably bring you a lot of money. You're going to be, even if you step away, you're going to be remembered as a great player. Money's not going to be an issue for you. You got to think about your family. And that goes for all of you. No matter what line of work you're doing, whether you're a professional football player, an attorney, or a blue-collar worker, you got to do what's right for your family when it's right. Family is the most important thing. Family is the thing that you got to focus on and care about more than anything else in the world, especially when you have young children. Hopefully one day, by God's grace, I'll have a family. I'll have a wife and kids. And that wife and those kids are going to be the most important thing besides God in my life. I would do anything for them. And those of you who have families know the feeling. You do anything for your children. You do anything for your spouse. And sometimes you got to make tough decisions that may not seem great in the moment, but they serve your family, which is the most important thing you can do. And for Tua, if that means walking away from football and calling it quits and saying it's time to retire, that is the right thing to do, and that's what he should do. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed. Once again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Follow me on social media at Jesse Hughes NC. If you like the content I have here, go consider supporting the show. Once again, not allowed to have a job as a 1L in law school. So if you want to contribute to the work that I do here, go on Venmo or find another way to support. Send a little money my way. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for you to drop six figures in my lap. Though if you want to, I'd take it. But I'm not asking for that. I hate asking for money. But if you feel generous and you want to support the show, please do. But once again, like the video, like the tweet, subscribe, share it with your friends. Thank you for tuning in. God loves you, and so do I. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Thank you. God bless.